Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome to the 42nd episode in the Mondays with Margaret series. It's been quite some time since we have read Atwood's poetry, and this week is a poetry collection called The Door. We haven't read poetry since Morning in the Burned House, which was episode 29, and we won't be reading poetry again until the final episode in the entire series, which will be in about 5 weeks if everything goes according to plan. So The Door was published in 2007, and it is divided into 5 sections. There are 10 poems in the first section, and at first I was like, this is just a bunch of random poems, what's going on? But knowing that Atwood is pretty conscientious about her work, and I don't think that she would have just thrown random poems in a pile together and say, here you go. So I read the poems again, and there are themes that run throughout. And they are the usual Atwood themes of death, animals, family, and making us more aware of the mundane. My favorites are Gasoline, which is about the fascination of what spilled gas looks and smells like, and this reminded me of some people that I know who really love the smell of gasoline. Year of the Hen is about sorting and cleaning, so Marie Kondo would definitely approve. And it's interesting when you think of the things that we keep and why. And I really liked a couple of verses in particular, and I'm going to read a couple of them to you. These are, they start from page 5. For instance, 2 thick layers of blank glass jars that once held jam we made in those evaporated summers, a frugal slew of plastic bags, a cracked maroon umbrella so prized when new, a chocolate box with crayon ends stored up for phantom children, shoes with the grimy marks of toes that once were mine, photos of boys whose names are lost, posing so jauntily in front of chrome-trimmed cars, many of them dead now, the others old. And I love that. I can see and I think I've experienced, everything that Atwood is talking about in this poem. The poem that precedes this one is called Resurrecting the Doll's House. And it feels almost like a continuation of Year of the Hen, but in this one it's as though Margaret is bringing the doll house to life. And I want to read this one to you. This starts on page 7. Resurrecting the doll's house, lying dormant for 15 years, left behind by its owner. We unswaddle the wrapped furniture, wake up the family, mother and father, a boy and girl in sailor suits, a frilly baby, grandmother and grandfather, their white hair dusty, all as it should be, except for an extra diminutive father with suave spats and a mustache, maybe a wicked uncle who will creep around at night and molest the children. No, let's make him good, perhaps a butler or cook. He's the one who can potter over the real iron stove, with lids, pour water into the hip bath, dish up the dubious meals made of baked fimo, the gruesome omelet, the meatballs, the cake, lopsided and purple. Now picture the house all neatly arranged, the way it used to be. Dad snoozing in his rocker, tiny newspaper in hand, mother supine with her knitting, the needles as big as her legs, grandparents conked out on the best bed, the butler counting up eggs and apples, the kids at the dinky piano. Stand back. Now it's a home. It glows from within. The welcome mat says, welcome. Still, it makes us anxious. Anxieties of the nest. How can we keep it safe? There's so much to defend. There might be illnesses or shouting or a dead turtle. There might be nightmares. Lucky if it's just the toast that catches fire. Madeline is only 3, but she knows already the baby's too big for the carriage. No matter how hard you cram it in, one day when it should be sleeping, it will slip through a blanket in your memory and get away. There are several animal poems, especially about cats. Blackie in Antarctica is about the death of a cat, and it's actually quite humorous. They've put the cat in the freezer, and there is a line in the poem that talks about opening up the cat by mistake for supper. And again, it's dark humor, and Atwood just does it so well. Appropriately, the next two poems, Mourning for Cats and January, are also about cats. Mourning for Cats is about how some animals are grieved for more than others, and cats seem to rate much higher on the grieving scale than most animals. And then January is about cats in wintertime. The second section has 9 poems. There are 2 main themes that might seem strange at first. They again are themes that we're familiar with when it comes to Atwood. The first is the theme of human bodies, and in the poems, the theme is in relationship to animals, our emotions, and our actions. And the second theme that is prevalent is that of like poets or poetry and writing. There are poems called The Poet Has Come, The Poets Hang On, Poetry Reading, and A Poor Woman Learns to Write, which was just beautiful. The poem that I want to share from this section is called Heart, and it's about our physical and emotional heart. And I think, only Atwood can write a poem in this way, and this is on page 24. Some people sell their blood, you sell your heart. It was either that or the soul. The hard part is getting the damn thing out. A kind of twisting motion, like shucking an oyster, your spine a wrist. And then a hup, it's in your mouth. You turn yourself partially inside out, like a sea anemone coughing a pebble. There's a broken plop, the racket of fish guts into a pail, and there it is, a huge, glistening, deep red clot of the still alive past, whole on the plate. It gets passed around, it's slithery, it gets dropped, but also tasted. Too coarse, says one. Too salty. Too sour, says another, making a face. Each one is an instant gourmet, and you stand listening to all this in the corner, like a newly hired waiter, your diffident, skillful hand on the wound hidden deep in your shirt and chest, shyly heartless. I love her description in this poem, and she gets the message across in a very dramatic way. The third section has the most poems with 15, and this section is also heavy on the theme of nature and animals. Atwood subtly but very clearly talks about environmental issues and our connection to nature. She then moves on to the topic of war, and the few poems that are about this theme are introduced with a poem called White Cotton T-Shirt, and this is on page 59, and I absolutely love this. White cotton T-shirt, an innocent garment then. It made its way to us from the war, but we didn't know that. For us it was the vestment of summer, whiter than white, shining with whiteness because it had been washed in blood, but we didn't know that. And in the cropped sleeve, rolled up tightly into a cuff, were tucked the cigarettes, also white within their packet, also innocent, as were white panties, white convertibles, white blonde brush cuts, and the white teeth of the lilting smiles of the young men. Ignorance makes all things clean. Our knowledge weighs us down. We want it gone. So we can put on our white T-shirts and drive once more through the early dawn streets with the names we never could pronounce, but it didn't matter. Over the broken glass and bricks, passing the weary, impoverished faces, the grins filled with blackening teeth, the starving dogs and sick children, and the slackened bundles of clothing that once held men. Enjoying the rush of morning air on our clean, tanned skins, and the white flowers we hold out in our fists, believing still that they are flowers of peace. So I love how Atwood uses something so unassuming, like a T-shirt, to talk about big topics and make us realize a few things. The fourth section has 6 poems, And the third section kind of left me feeling heavy and a little bit down. And then the fourth section begins with a poem called Enough of These Discouragements. So I thought that this might be a more uplifting poem, and my thoughts about it are that the writer is the one bringing hope amid the discouragements in that one. So the same themes we've already seen in the previous poems and sections were in this section too, but none of them really resonated with me and stood out. And then the final section has 11 poems, and the last one is the title poem. And this section has some poems that have the theme of time, and The Door is a perfect example of that. So I will share that one with you to finish off the collection. And this begins on page 116. The door swings open. You look in. It's dark in there. Most likely spiders, nothing you want. You feel scared. The door swings closed. The full moon shines. It's full of delicious juice. You buy a purse. The dance is nice. The door opens and swings closed so quickly you don't notice. The sun comes out. You have swift breakfasts with your husband who is still thin. You wash the dishes. You love your children. You read a book. You go to the movies. It rains moderately. The door swings open. You look in. Why does this keep happening now? Is there a secret? The door swings closed. The snow falls. You clear the walk while breathing heavily. It's not as easy as once. Your children telephone sometimes. The roof needs fixing. You keep yourself busy. The spring arrives. The door swings open. It's dark in there, with many steps going down. But what is that shining? Is it water? The door swings closed. The dog has died. This happened before. You got another. Not this time, though. Where is your husband? You gave up the garden. It became too much. At night, there are blankets. Nonetheless, you are wakeful. The door swings open. O God of hinges, God of long voyages, you have kept faith. It's dark in there. You confide yourself to the darkness. You step in. The door swings closed. So this was a good collection of poetry. The second and third sections, I think, are my favorites. But I do love how Atwood is able to bring the everyday into her poetry and uses it to get her messages across. She also makes very deep connections, and she continues to be loyal to the themes that we've come to get used to from her. So please let me know if you have read The Door, if you have any favorite poems from the collection, or if you've read, other poetry by Atwood, and what have you liked or not liked? Do you have some favorite themes that you like to see in poetry? I would love to hear your thoughts on all of that, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, I will leave the reading schedule in the description box below. And the next video will be out tomorrow, since we are now kind of doing 2 videos a week to get caught up. I am just finishing the next book up, and we'll have that ready to post probably by the end of the day tomorrow, so you can check that out too. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.